$41 billion class action lawsuit might reach a settlement on realtors' commissions. It's all over the news. It has a lot of realtors very worried about their careers. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the lawsuit, the settlement, why it's complete BS. I'm going to break it down in layman's terms and talk about how we can likely fix the problem going forward. Let's jump right into it. If you go into Google and you type in RE/MAX offers $55 million settlement, you can see the article for yourself. So I'm just going to quickly read through it so you can get some context about what recently happened, because a lot of people are super angry about this. A lot of realtors are very stressed out about this. It's causing them to be very concerned about their jobs going forward. Residential real estate brokerage franchisor RE/MAX, among many other major real estate brokerages, have agreed to pay $55 million settlement to two class action lawsuits alleging the long-established way that U.S. homes are bought and sold is anti-competitive. They argue that the long-time way of doing business artificially drives up home prices. A multi-billion-dollar verdict in either case could be a threat to the Chicago-based NAR and its members' MLS systems, potentially leading to massive changes in the sector. Some industry professionals have told CoStar News. RE/MAX said in the statement, quote, "While RE/MAX LLC steadfastly refutes the allegations presented in the lawsuits, this forward-looking decision was made in the best interest of RE/MAX LLC, its agents, and its franchises, after carefully considering the significant risks and costs associated with continued litigation. Defendants that do not settle are at risk of paying out a multi-billion-dollar settlement. In the larger Morrell case, headed for a potential trial next year in Chicago, maximum damages could be more than $41 billion. Wow. I have a lot of things to say about this. First of all, as you can see in the article, the lawsuit is completely frivolous. The owners of RE/MAX are very shrewd business people. They're not stupid, so clearly they're going to count their losses and reach a settlement. But how did all of this come to be? What happened? So let's get some more context about the business model in layperson's terms. So we have to start from the very beginning. Many years ago, before the advent of the internet and the cell phone, when somebody wanted to sell a house, they would call a real estate agent, and the agent would come to their house. They would put a sign in the front yard, they would put a phone number on the sign, and they would hold an open house. See, back then, they didn't have cell phones and internet, so literally, people would get the newspaper, read the newspaper, and they would see what homes were for sale. They'd get in the car, and they'd drive down the street, and they would go see the house on Saturday. They'd walk in the house. If they were interested in buying it, they would talk to the realtor directly, and the realtor would sell the house direct, from the seller, owner of the property, to the interested buyer of the property, and the realtor would make his commission when he sold the house. Now, back then in those days, there was really no need for two realtors at the time because of things like cell phones and internet. But as time went on, and as the MLS became available, and as the internet became more relevant, like how it is today, realtors, what they decided to do was, rather than spend all of their time inside one house on a Saturday, they were able to leverage other people and technology so they can have multiple open houses in one day. How do you do that? Well, you do that by incentivizing other salespeople to show your house on your behalf when you can't actually physically be there at that time, because you can't possibly be in two places at the same time. And so how do you compensate another salesperson? You split the commission with them, or you offer them a percentage or a portion of the commission to bring somebody else in. This is what is known as a co-op. So if you're selling your house and you want to hire me as your realtor to sell your house, we will sit down, we'll do a consultative review, we'll talk about exactly why it is you want to sell, where you're going next, we'll ask some questions specific about the property, and try to offset any headwinds or unforeseen turns of events throughout the process during the consultative meeting. Shortly thereafter, we'll talk about the marketing strategy, exactly what it is the realtor does to get your home listed, shown well on the market, so you can get top dollar for your home sale. After the marketing strategy segment, one of the next things that a realtor will do is they'll talk with you, the seller, about what your property is valued at based on the recent sales in the neighborhood and current market conditions. once you arrive to the understanding of what your home will probably sell for, you have an idea of what that dollar amount might be. A great realtor's next step is to actually do what is called a net sheet calculation. And all that is exactly what it sounds like. What you are netting and a calculation. So if we sell your home for X, after your fees, commissions, taxes, and whatever else might be on that, that's an expense to you, how much do you actually net at the end of the sale? What are your sales proceeds walking out the door? How much money do you get in your pocket after the sale? Now remember, during that segment of the meeting, it is discussed exactly how much the listing agent, that's the realtor, how much their commission is going to be. Typically, realtors will charge between 5 or 6% of the purchase price. 6% is a standard rate. 5% oftentimes is a discounted rate that's used for friends and family. For the most part, you can count on a 6% rate. And when you agree to hire that realtor to market your property for sale and to bring you a buyer, you will then agree to a commission structure, which goes onto the paper that you are about to sign. That is what's known as a listing agreement. Inside the listing agreement specifies everything that you just discussed, including listing price, as well as commission structure. So now that it's completely clear because you've spoken about it and you've put it in writing and signed on it, there should be no confusion as to what the commission is now, right? Wrong, because clearly there are some people who are upset with how the commission structure has been allocated. And as we can see, there are legitimate, illegitimate lawsuits that are now being settled in the hundreds of millions and the billions of dollars. So let's talk about what the heck is happening and how it can be solved moving forward. So congratulations, you just hired the realtor. He's gonna walk out the door and he's gonna get your property ready for market so it can be sold. One of the things that the realtor has to do in order to increase your chances of getting the most amount of showings, the most amount of offers, and the most amount of dollars into your pocket is he leverages the power of the MLS and the internet by broadcasting your property to as many eyes as possible and offering a portion of the commission that he just negotiated with you, that you came to an agreement on. It is very common to see a realtor take their 6% commission that you agreed to pay them to market your property and sell your property, and for him to take half of it and offer it to another agent, or should I say, to all of the other agents that are out there that could possibly bring you a buyer. Notice, and right here is where all the problem seems to be. Some sellers can't or don't want to wrap their mind around the concept that they are not paying the buyer agent's commission. They're paying the listing agent's commission, who they just agreed to hire, and the listing agent is taking a piece of his commission and he's paying the buyer agent. But a lot of people are not seeing it like that. They're seeing it like, well, if I'm giving money and that money is going to that guy, then I am paying that guy. That's not what's happening. And they don't want to believe it. And not believing the truth of something clearly pays off, because we see it in a multi-billion-dollar class action settlement suit. Now, I want to step back for a moment and talk to you a little bit about how a real estate agent gets paid and the difference between a real estate agent and their broker, and how the broker gets paid. A real estate agent is a licensed salesperson, and the licensed salesperson works for a real estate broker. The broker owner, for the most part, serves a purpose of being both administrative, managerial, and compliant. It is the broker's job to manage and have oversight over the sales agent in the transaction. It's important to know and understand how both the real estate agent, salesperson, and the broker gets paid on your transaction. It's going to help you understand what happened here and how we can solve it moving forward. When you meet with the agent and he charges you the 6% and you close on the property and you pay out the 6% commission, the way that the broker makes money is multiple faceted. Your real estate agent doesn't keep 100% of the 6%. Like I mentioned before, chances are they split the 6% with another buyer agent, so it's really 3 and 3. Then with the 3% that he has, oftentimes he will have what is known as a broker split. If you're a brand new agent, chances are your broker split is 50-50, meaning the agent that you hired takes his 3% because he split the other 3 with somebody else, and then of the 3% that he's holding, chances are he's going to split that in half with his broker of record. A more experienced agent will have a different type of split. 60-40, 70-30, 90-10, for example. How else does a broker make money? Another way the broker will make money on the transaction is by charging transaction fees. Typically, brokers charge anywhere from $300 to about $700 per transaction. And so, as you can see, the way that the broker makes money is by having tens, hundreds, thousands of realtors constantly doing transactions where the broker receives a portion of the commission in a commission split and or they receive a transaction fee upon the completion of the transaction. But that's not it. The broker will also make money with other ancillary items. For example, a real estate brokerage might have an affiliated business agreement with a title company or a mortgage company or an insurance company. And each of these services may plug into your transaction. And when you acquire these services, the broker may have some type of invested ownership interest, and as a result, they will receive revenue into their company from the other services that you chose to use. And so now that you have a general understanding as to what a realtor is and what a real estate broker is, their roles between each other and how they get paid and how they cooperate with other realtors so that they can help you get top dollar for your property, that should be enough for you to have basic understanding of so far why this is fair. Also, you can see why, sadly, it makes sense for these massive brokerage companies to come to an arrangement on settlement for $55 million. Simply because the amount of time and money that would go into litigation would be way more expensive and it would pull them away from their regular day-to-day money-making activities, as I just showcased to you. And so, how did it come to this? I recall a phone call I had many years ago, a buyer from New York, and they were really upset because they were in the process of a transaction where they were listing a home for sale in New York, and they agreed to pay their listing agent a commission. And throughout the transaction, the buyer agent really gave the listing agent and the seller a hard time during the inspection period and multiple attempts to renegotiate both the pricing and the terms of the transaction. The seller thought that it was messed up because their thought is, if I'm paying you, then why are you beating me up for more money? That's not right. That's not fair. You're attacking me in a renegotiation and I'm paying you. That exact thought process is what started the wheels of this lawsuit in motion to start getting people to think in a way that's neither accurate or true by any stretch of the imagination. Again, I reiterate, if you are a seller, you are not paying the buyer agent's commission. You are paying the listing agent's commission, the person who you hired to sell your property. And the listing agent is paying to cooperate with another buyer. It comes out of his pocket. It originated from your pocket, but it comes from his pocket to partner with someone else. He gets to decide how much he wants to pay that person, and that is usually disclosed, or it should be disclosed, on the listing agreement, how much he is paying out to the buyer agent. Sometimes it's a 50-50 split, 3 and 3. Sometimes it's a 3.5%, 2.5% split. Sometimes it's 4 and 2. It's whatever you guys have an agreement on and usually how the listing agent values his time and service maybe over someone else's. This is 100% legal and completely factual. Disclaimer: I do not give legal advice, tax advice, or financial advice or investment advice. For any of those items, be sure to always seek advice from a designated professional. And so now what? You think it would be just that simple and it would just go away, that you'd be able to explain that to somebody and they would say, okay, that makes sense, life goes on? No, there's one more thing, and this is the one thing that I think should be changed And I also believe that I have a resolution going forward, so this might not ever happen again. Before I share that with you, if you haven't already, be sure to click the link and subscribe and leave a comment below to tell me what you think. I really want to know. Okay, so what I think the title company should do moving forward is as follows. They should reflect on the CD in the seller column 100% of the agreed upon commission amount as a debit, as an expense to the seller, and leave it just like that. Pretty clean cut, right? That's what you agreed to pay your realtor when you hired him. No misunderstandings, no argument there, right? Right. The reason why people get their feathers ruffled is because when the seller sees the CD now, he sees a certain dollar amount that's been allocated as a debit to the seller for the listing agent. And then on the other side of the column, they see a credit in the amount given to the buyer agent. It's reflected on the paper, and so it reminds the seller that yes, I agreed to pay that, but I'm mad at how it's being divided between the two, even though they've been notified in writing. So going forward, I think it would be good if the dollar amount was not reflected as a split on the CD. Instead, the dollar amount remained the same all to one side, which is not a surprise to the seller. And then behind the scenes, a referral agreement is signed between the listing broker and the buyer broker on how much of the commission is being split between the agents. This completely takes away the argument from a disgruntled seller about how they may feel that an opposing agent who is trying to get over on them a better deal within the transaction is in fact employed by them because the money came from their pocket. I believe that is a good way and clear way, an honest way to navigate any discrepancy or opportunity for a seller to become disgruntled. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of realtors are so upset by this. They're having a hard enough time as it is right now, earning a living as a realtor with interest rates being very high and inventory being very low and transactions bottlenecking on both sides, which mean their volume is down, which means they're making less money. Now they're worried about the possibility of the buyer agent role going away or the buyer agent's commission becoming non-existent. This was a very bad look. I'm really surprised that these companies reached a settlement, but I also understand from a business standpoint that it's less expensive to settle than it is to litigate, and so that's why they did it. But it could open up a can of worms in the future moving forward, and I really think that the easiest way to solve it is by modifying the CD and having a referral agreement between the buyer agent and the listing agent, which should limit disgruntled sellers when they see the closing disclosure. And so I want to know what you think. Leave a comment below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is this right? Is this wrong? Be sure to like and subscribe.